The old timber bridge groaned beneath the weight of the cruiser as Deputy Rory Nash slowed to a crawl. His K-9 partner, Scout, had been restless the whole ride, ears twitching, posture stiff. But now, in the amber light of early morning, he stopped. Mid-span, legs locked, eyes fixed on something below the railing. Rory followed his gaze, leaned out, and then he saw it. A boot, dangling, spinning slightly from the breeze. At the end of a rope, below it, the name carved into the bridge's side. The one he hadn't heard since she vanished 11 years ago. The sun hadn't cleared the tree line yet, and already the valley felt tight with something unspoken. Morning fog coiled low across the river like it didn't want to lift. The bridge, old one-lane wooden planked, was the only way in or out of Northwoods, and locals swore it made noises like it breathed. Deputy Rory Nash had never believed that. Not really. But today, it did seem to groan like something alive beneath his boots. Scout, his sable German shepherd, stood rigid halfway across. Not sniffing, not growling, frozen. Rory had to call his name twice before the dog even twitched. Scout? What is it, buddy? The dog didn't budge. Just stared at the side rail, one paw hovering above the worn plank. Rory followed his line of sight, bent, and the breath fled his lungs. There, dangling just below the bridge, swaying slowly above the river, was a boot, scuffed leather, laces trailing, attached to a leg, and carved into the old pine railing, nearly obscured by moss. Cassidy Lane, 2014. He blinked. Once. Twice. Cassidy Lane. No one had said that name in years. Not without a whisper, anyway. Rory backed off a step and keyed the mic on his shoulder. This is Nash. I need backup at Old Creek Bridge. Confirmed body. Possible jumper. A pause. Then static. 10-4, deputy. EMS and Sheriff Weller en route. Scout finally moved, sniffed the boards, growled once, deep low, and sat beside the carving like a statue. By the time Sheriff Bill Weller pulled up 20 minutes later, the fog had lifted, but the weight in Rory's chest hadn't. Weller climbed out slow, a tall man whose age showed most in his eyes, not his stride. You sure about the name? Carved clean. Same year she disappeared. Weller sighed. Didn't say anything for a second. Then, well, Cassidy Lane didn't vanish off a bridge. No, Rory said. She vanished out of a locked bedroom. No prints. No struggle. No blood. Just gone. Weller gave him a look. That case broke you, Rory. Don't let this be a ghost hunt. I'm not. I'm telling you the carving's real. And the boot? That's not a woman's size. Not Cassidy's. You recognize the body? Not yet. Still hanging. Weller squinted at the figure, now swaying harder in the wind. Get him down. Let's see who's haunting you. The rope was anchored to the underside girder. No ID in the victim's pockets, but the body was fresh. Less than 12 hours. Face bruised, neck broken by the drop. Male, early 30s. He wore a brown jacket, canvas type, with a familiar red thread stitched into the cuff. Rory frowned, crouching beside the medical examiner's van. Something wrong? Asked Weller. I know that coat, Rory muttered. It's crap, I know that coat. He paced once, twice, until it hit him. Eli Watts, he said. Sheriff Weller's brows lifted. Cassidy's old boyfriend? Yeah, high school sweetheart. Black sheep. Ran off right after she went missing. Everyone thought he skipped town to avoid suspicion. Weller shook his head. That was never proven. We barely had enough to call him a person of interest. Because he disappeared, Rory shot back. And now he's back. And hanging under the bridge, she supposedly carved her name into the day before she vanished. Back at the station, Rory pulled the old file from the archives himself. Photos yellowed at the edges. Cassidy, 17. Sharp smile. Straw-colored braid. Last seen 9:48 p.m., her mother claimed. Locked in her room. Next morning, bed empty. Window locked from the inside. No forced entry. No note. No body. Only thing left behind. Her phone, dead under her pillow. And her boyfriend, Eli, had skipped town the same night. Scout lay near Rory's feet, watching with unblinking eyes. He always got like this when something felt wrong. Rory had learned to trust it. The dog didn't chase shadows. He flipped a page and stopped. Cassidy's diary entry, April 12, 2014. He said he'd meet me at the bridge. 11 sharp. Said he had something to show me. Said we'd fix it. Fix what? 3 hours later, Deputy Casey Loring walked into Rory's office, holding a plastic bag. Found this in the evidence box from the Watt search. You're going to want to see it. Inside the bag, a hunting knife, dull pitted steel, handle engraved with initials, CL. Cassidy Lane. No prints, Casey said, but it was found in Eli's truck the morning after she went missing. Never made it to trial. No body, no case. Was the truck found? Rory asked. Parked behind Weller's old fishing shack, south end of Blue Elk Trail. Rory's jaw clenched. That's just a mile upriver from the bridge. That evening, the town felt too quiet. The kind of quiet that pressed in like it knew something you didn't. Rory sat in his truck, parked at the bridge, watching the shadows stretch over the timber planks. Scout lay beside him, head up, alert. He pulled Cassidy's diary from the passenger seat. Flipped back to that last entry. Something to show me. Fix it. He looked out at the trees beyond the river. The trail curled just over that ridge, led into the thick woods where the old cabin still stood, boarded and rotting. He didn't tell Weller. Just drove. The cabin was smaller than he remembered. Roof caved at one corner. Windows dusted in green moss. Scout barked once, sharp, and jumped down before Rory even turned the key. Wait, Rory said, but the dog was already pulling toward the shed. The door creaked open under Rory's hand. Inside, dust, broken tools, an old cot, and a boot print, fresh, in the mud near the workbench, and a stack of faded Polaroids, bound with twine, tucked beneath a floorboard. Rory's heart hammered. He pulled them free. The top photo was Cassidy, smiling, alive, and the next, a room for cinderblock walls. A girl curled in the corner, head shaved, too thin. Cassidy, not dead, and not alone. A snap echoed outside. Scout growled. Rory turned, gun drawn. Too late. A figure stepped from the trees. Hands raised. Face older now. Beard streaked gray. You shouldn't have come alone, the man said. Rory froze. It wasn't Eli. It was Mason Lane, Cassidy's father. Dead, according to records. Suicide. 5 years ago. Rory stared. You, what the hell? I told her never to see him again, Mason said, but she wouldn't listen. So I made sure no one else would. Scout barked, loud, snarling. I didn't kill her, Mason said, calm. I kept her safe. From people like Eli. From this town. From what she knew. What she knew. Mason's face twisted. She saw what I did. To the girl before her. Rory's blood ran cold. You? Mason nodded once. Cassidy wasn't the first, but she almost became the last. Until I made her understand. Where is she? Rory demanded, gun shaking. She left, Mason said. Last winter. Said she was done hiding. She said she'd carve her name on that bridge so I'd never forget. And then Rory understood. Eli didn't kill himself. Cassidy had come back. And someone else had helped her hang him. The flashlight beam jittered across the wall as Rory stepped backward, one hand tight on the grip of his sidearm, the other gripping Scout's collar. Mason Lane hadn't moved, didn't need to. His voice had landed its blow. I never meant for it to get this far, Mason said, but she left me no choice. She knew too much, just like her mother did. Rory's stomach turned. Your wife died in a car crash. Mason laughed, low and humorless. That's what the coroner said. That's what I paid him to say. Scout bared his teeth. A low snarl rumbled deep in his throat. She was going to the sheriff. Mason added. Weller, he was sleeping with her. Did you know that? Rory blinked. What? Mason's eyes were glassy now, haunted. She was going to ruin me. Take Cassidy, leave town, burn it all down. I loved her. But she didn't leave me any choice either. Rory wanted to say something, anything, but the world had gone quiet, like it was listening. You said Cassidy left. Rory managed. Where? Mason's face darkened. She said she had to fix what I broke. Said Eli wasn't the one. That it was bigger. That people would finally see. She killed Eli? Rory asked. I don't know, Mason whispered. But she was angry enough to. She said he knew something. That he came back for her. Said someone else helped cover it all up back then. A long pause. Then she said it was Weller. Back at the station, the storm hit. Lightning tore open the sky as Rory stood dripping in the evidence room, staring at the box marked Lane, Cassidy. Missing person? 2014. The knife was still on his desk. The diary. And now the photos, each more damning than the last. Polaroids of Cassidy, clearly taken during her years missing. Captivity. The concrete walls. The same cot scene in the old county juvenile holding cell. He picked up the phone. Called dispatch. Get Sheriff Weller on the line. A beat. He just left for the bridge, sir. Said he was checking the scene before storm washout. Rory's jaw locked. Of course he did. Scout leapt into the cruiser before Rory could even whistle. The engine coughed once, then roared to life. Wipers fought the downpour. Every bump in the road felt like a punch to the chest. Rory gripped the wheel hard enough to ache. The bridge loomed out of the rain like a ghost. And there, headlights angled wide, was Weller's truck. Empty. Rory stepped out. Rain soaked him in seconds. Wind howled through the trees like it remembered screams. Sheriff, he called out. Weller. Scout barked twice, then sprinted to the left side of the bridge, right where the carving was, right where Cassidy had written her name. Only now it was different. Rory froze. There were 2 new letters scratched just beneath it. WW. He turned. Willard Weller. A flash of movement behind him. Rory spun, weapon raised. Weller stood at the far end of the bridge. No hat, no badge, just that long, unreadable stare. I was hoping you wouldn't figure out, Weller said over the storm, but you always were too curious. You helped Mason cover up a murder, Rory said. I did a lot more than that. Silence. Then softly, Cassidy's not dead. She's broken, Weller said, taking a step closer, just like her mother was, just like all the girls who saw too much. You were supposed to protect her, Rory said. You're the sheriff. I was cleaning up his mess. Weller barked. Mason got sloppy. And when Cassidy walked in on what he was doing, when she tried to run, I had to act fast. She was a child, Rory whispered. And you were just a rookie, Weller sneered. You think the badge makes you good? I kept this town safe. You think people around here want to know what's under the floorboards of their pretty little homes? What's been buried behind the school gym since 2009? Rory's pulse roared in his ears. You used her. You locked her away. Let her rot. Weller's face hardened. She didn't rot. She learned. Then a voice, softer, older, cracked, cut through the rain. No, Sheriff. Weller's head snapped toward it. Cassidy. She stood at the far end of the bridge, near the shadows, soaked to the bone, a hood falling from her head. Her face pale, hair cut close, but her eyes, those eyes burned. You tried to break me, she said. Cass. Weller started, but she held up a hand. You said no one would believe me. But you believed me once, Rory. Didn't you? Rory nodded, barely breathing. I carved my name to bring you back, Cassidy said. And I left Eli hanging because he let it happen, because he watched. Weller moved suddenly, toward her, but Scout lunged. The dog's bark split the storm. Weller stepped back, gun raised, and Rory fired first. The shot echoed over the water like thunder. Weller fell. One shot. Clean. Center mass. Cassidy didn't move. Just stood there, rain washing the blood from the bridge boards. Hours later, they sat in Rory's cruiser, engine running, heater on full blast. Cassidy shivered beneath the blanket, but didn't speak. I thought you were dead, Rory finally said. I wanted to be, for a while. He watched her in the rear view. You carved your name last night. She nodded. I knew you'd come. Rory glanced at Scout, now curled at Cassidy's feet, protective. You remember him? She smiled faintly. He used to chew my shoelaces. Silence stretched. Then she whispered. There were others, girls, buried, some still alive when they went in. Rory gripped the steering wheel hard. You gonna tell them? She asked. All of it. She stared out at the river. Then you'll need to dig deeper. The next morning, Weller's body was airlifted out. Mason Lane was taken into custody. Quiet, compliant. He never asked for a lawyer. Just sat humming in a holding cell like the world outside no longer mattered. Cassidy was taken to hospital, and Rory sat with her until the sun came up. She hadn't said much since the confession, but she didn't need to. There was a single picture taped to the hospital mirror. Cassidy, 17 again, next to a signpost that read, Bridge Hollow Town Limits. She was smiling before everything. Rory stood at the edge of the river that night, Scout beside him. They'd found 3 sets of bones buried near the old fishing cabin. 2 confirmed missing girls from 2009 and 2011. The 3rd was still being tested. More may come. The bridge behind him groaned in the wind. But it didn't feel haunted anymore. He turned, whispered to the dog, Let's go home, buddy. Scout wagged once and followed. 3 weeks later, Bridge Hollow, WI. Cassidy Lane stood on her front porch, arms wrapped around herself, watching the wind push through the trees like it remembered the dead. Across the gravel road, a single cruiser idled in the driveway. Deputy Rory Nash leaned against the hood, coffee in one hand, Scout's leash in the other. You sleep? He asked. Cassidy shook her head, the faded bruise on her jaw mostly gone now. Some. The quiet feels too loud. Rory nodded. It'll feel that way for a while. She looked toward the distant ridge, where the old cabin had stood before the county brought in the backhoe, burned and bulldozed now, as if fire could erase memory. I had dreams, she said softly. For a long time, no sound, just the click of that lock. Rory's jaw tightened. Scout nudged Cassidy's hand gently. You were locked up for how long? 2 years, 9 months, she said. Then he let me walk the woods again, on his terms, kept me off the grid, taught me how to disappear. I think he wanted me to replace her. Your mom? Cassidy nodded once. She found out what he did to that first girl, the one from Billings, the one no one ever reported missing. Mom tried to call the cops. Mason took care of it, and Weller made it disappear. Rory looked away, eyes burning. Why come back now? He asked. Because they were dying without paying for what they did, Cassidy said. And because there are others, people still protecting what they built. Rory stepped off the cruiser. What do you mean? She glanced toward the bridge. I think the list doesn't end with Weller. Later that afternoon, Rory sat in Sheriff Weller's now vacant office. Dust swirled in the filtered sunlight. The desk drawers had been emptied by internal affairs, but one thin folder remained. No case number. Just a single name on the tab. Becca Torrance. Rory opened it. Becca, 14, foster kid. Reported missing in 2010. Case marked closed within a week. Claimed she'd run away to Cheyenne and been found. No address listed. No statement. Just a signature at the bottom. Sheriff Weller. Jesus, Rory whispered. Scout sat at his feet, ears twitching. Rory flipped the page. Behind it, a photo. Not Becca. Not Cassidy. A different girl. Pale. Terrified. Concrete wall behind her. Same wall as Cassidy's Polaroid. And next to it, a list of initials. BTML CLSR RM. 7 names in total. 2 crossed out. It wasn't just Mason. Or Weller. It was bigger. That night, Cassidy waited outside the old feed store, the one Weller had kept boarded up for over a decade. On paper, it was condemned, structurally unsafe, privately owned by a holding company out of Sheridan. But Cassidy had remembered. Weller used to take calls there late at night. She heard his voice through the floorboards when Mason brought her along once. Heard him say, "Another shipment's coming in. Same place. Same promise." Rory parked quietly, Scout at his side. "You sure this is it?" he asked. Cassidy didn't blink. "Open the back." They did. What they found wasn't a crime scene. It was a staging area. Mattresses, cots, chains on the wall, a recording set up in one corner, a drawer full of IDs, most fake, some real, and a black ledger. Cassidy picked it up. Her hands didn't shake. Page after page. Names, prices, drop dates. Some marked paid, others with a red X. Rory stepped away and vomited into the dirt. Cassidy didn't move, just kept reading. One name stopped her cold. Rory N. Scheduled for January 2015. Status. Canceled. She stared. "You were supposed to be next," she said. Rory wiped his mouth, pale. "What?" "I remember now," Cassidy whispered. "Mason said they couldn't take you, that you asked too many questions, that if they touched you, the whole thing might collapse." Rory swayed on his feet. "How far up does this go?" Cassidy's voice was flat. "You're not going to like the answer." The next morning, the governor's office sent federal agents into Bridge Hollow. Quietly. No headlines. No TV trucks. For more properties raided. One body found behind the old mill. Buried shallow under gravel. 3 arrested. 2 suicides. The town was cracked open like an old, rotted bone. But no one talked about it. Not in the diner. Not at church. Not even in whispers. Because Bridge Hollow had learned a lesson. Silence protects monsters. Cassidy Lane was offered a book deal. She declined. She was offered a documentary. She refused. She gave one statement to the papers through Rory. "I survived. That's enough. Let the truth live on without my face." And then she was gone. Left town under a false name. A truck. A bag. A letter to Rory. "You believed me when no one else did. That saved me more than once. If I'm ever back, it'll be to see Scout wag his tail again, not to remember this place. Thank you. Keep digging. Cass." Rory stayed. The town needed him now. Not because he was some hero, but because someone had to keep the light on. The new sheriff, interim for now, was trying to make things right. Rory didn't care much for headlines, but he kept a list. The photos, the carved name on the bridge. And sometimes in the morning fog, Scout would stop mid-walk and stare out across the planks again. But this time, not in fear. In remembrance. Because the bridge didn't groan anymore. It stood quiet, like it had finally exhaled.